Laura Wilson from Gold Star Work here. Today I'm going to show you how I painted this Purple Seascape. Been doing a lot of miniature paintings lately because I'm getting ready for an art and craft festival in a couple of months' time, and so I need to do lots of little work to fit on my table. So I'm going to be doing quite a few videos on some small works in the future. Hi there, I just wanted to have a quick word with you before we started this tutorial about this little seascape here. If you think you might like to paint along with me and paint this little seascape, you will be able to do it, but I do suggest that you watch the whole video first because I made a couple of mistakes when I did this one that I then had to go and fix. So if you want to paint along with me, watch the whole video first and then you'll be able to see where I made my mistakes and not make them along with me. So this little purple seascape I decided to do. I hadn't done a purple seascape before, and of course I decided to tape it for the first time doing a purple seascape, and I was thinking in my head, oh, that doesn't look too hard, that should be fairly easy to paint. And of course as soon as I think that, I don't think the painting through as well, and I just start throwing some paint on there, and I started off going way too dark in the sky here, and I had to keep lightening it up and lightening it up, and I got about halfway through the painting and realised my horizon line wasn't quite straight, so then I had to straighten that up and repaint a lot of the sky. And I could have just scrapped this video and gone ahead and done another one, and I painted another one that I didn't make any mistakes on. But what I thought was that, you know, people make mistakes when they're painting, and it's important to know how to fix them or to see how someone fixes them. So I thought you might like to see how I fixed this painting, and maybe it'll be helpful for you if you make a few mistakes along the way as well. So come and join me on this seascape painting. Today I'm going to do another miniature painting, and this time I'm going to do a purple seascape. So I've done a quick sketch on here first, and now I'm going to do the base coat. So with this purple seascape, I wanted to show you how you can make a more lively purple. So this purple here, which you get out of the tube, is actually this one down here, and when you mix some white in it, it almost looks grey. So it's a very dull kind of purple. Purple is this one here, and you can see the colour here. And it's very similar to what I've mixed. The difference is that with the ultramarine blue that I've used here and the quinacridone magenta, I can get a much more lively colour, and I can push it more red or I can push it more blue depending on what I want to do, and it's got some white mixed into it, so you can see the difference between a flat colour and making your own with a lovely lively colour that you can push around to however you want it. So I prefer this beautiful purple here. I think it's a much prettier colour than the ones that come out of the tube. I'm going to start off with quite a dark colour, and I'm going to add some of that tube purple, this one down here that almost looked grey, into my colour up here to get it really dark. I've just added a bit more blue in there, and I'm add a little bit more magenta because it was just a bit too dark, because I want it to still translate as purple. And then what I'm going to do is I'll start off at the top of the picture with this colour, and as I work down I'll go more into this colour. Now I'll put some of that on, and I think that's going to be too dark. I think this is still going to be a good colour for the tree that I'm going to have here. So I'm actually going to add a bit of white into it. Now I'm transitioning into a more bluey purple mix of the one that I made myself. As it comes down, I'm going to add a little bit more of the magenta and a little bit more white. And I'm just going to keep adding a little bit more magenta and a little bit more white as I come down. So you're getting that transition from dark at the top to lighter at the bottom. When I think it's pink enough and I don't want to make it any more pink, I'll just add some white with no more magenta. And I'm just using my brush to smooth out any harsh lines. I don't mind if the colour isn't a real gradient, really smooth. I don't mind. I don't mind if some of the dark comes down or some of the light goes up, because it is a sunset, and so you're going to get the different mixing of colours. It's not going to be a perfectly flat gradient. I think that'll help make it look a lot more interesting. And I'm going to do a darker line for the sea to start with. And bring some light in there. So this is just a very rough first coat, just to cover the white of the canvas. I'm using some of that dark colour with hardly any white in it at all for the ground in the front. So that needs to dry before I can do the next layer. So now that's all dry, you can see just how dark it has dried, and I'll be able to do my next coat lightening some of it up. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is actually put the sun in. And I'm just going to use some white to start with. It's not going to stay white, but I'm just giving it a base so that the other colours will sit nicely on the top. I'm going over that with some of the magenta, and I've just put a tiny bit of orange, yellow into that. And again, this is just for the glow of the colour. It's not going to stay that colour. I'm just marking out where the light's going to be reflecting on the water. smooth this out a bit more, so I'm actually going to use this mop brush here. This is a number 14. It's a big, soft, fluffy brush, a bit like a powder brush for makeup or something, and I'm just going to very gently, barely touching it, smooth out some of these transition lines. These mop brushes make doing things like clouds and blending in sunset colours and that really easy. So now that that's got some paint on it, you don't want to be transferring more paint on there. So I'd either have to use this little bit here, or I'd have to just switch to a dry brush, because the trick to this is to have a nice dry brush with no paint on it. I've dried it off. I can see the sun is still not bright enough, and it's also not bright enough around the sun either. So I'm going to leave the top half and move on to the bottom half. Now, because I want to make sure my horizon is straight, I'm going to dry it off and put the masking tape on the top. And this may look really patchy, but I wanted to get lots of variation in the sea to make it more interesting. Now, before I put any highlight in for the sea, I need to take the tape off so I can see exactly where the sun is, because it needs to be, the highlight needs to match up. So I want to do my highlight on an angle. So the smallest part will be at the top, and then it'll angle out. So it'll angle out on these parts. So if you need to use a guideline, you could dry this off and then do some chalk lines. And I'm breaking it up so it looks like it's hitting the top of the waves and things. I'm going to use a much stronger colour now, and I'm going a bit more pinky. I think I'll make the sun a bit more pink too. I'm thinking about where my waves are. Now, because I'm trying not to get in the way of the camera, my brush stroke's going a bit crooked. You won't have that problem because you'll be sitting right in front of your picture. I'm sitting a little bit on the side so that my head doesn't get in the way. Just putting a little bit of a glow along the top of the water there. So I've just wet my brush. I'm going to use that same colour on the sun. And I think I might do some of it around the sun there as well. Pretty happy with the sky bit now, so I think I'm going to go back and do some more on the sea. So the sea reflection will be a little bit richer and darker in colour than the light of the sun there. You do some of the little lines under the waves, and that'll help accentuate the lights as well. And add some brighter pink into there again. So as the colour moves away from the sun, the colour diffuses out. So it'll be really bright where it's reflecting, and then it'll slowly get darker as it goes out. And you'll have little bits where there's a little wave where the light catches. So it won't be an even transition. I just want to darken up along the horizon. And I don't want the horizon line to be a really sharp line. So I've just washed my brush and then wiped all the water off, and then just wiping over it. And you can see how that just softens that line a little bit. Now, because I'm looking at this on an angle, I'm feeling like my horizon line is looking a little crooked. So I'm actually going to measure this to see if it is, or whether it's just the angle I'm looking at it. But it is a little crooked. It's higher on this side than this side, so I need to fix that. Now the lighting might have changed. It's winter here, and Even though it's not even 5 o'clock, 5 p.m, it's getting a bit dark. And although it was alright for me painting it, the film was looking not that great. So I've turned the light on, so if the lighting's all changed, it's because I've turned the light on. And I'm shining a daylight bulb, so it's a white light onto the painting so it doesn't affect the colours that I'm using. Because if you're using a yellow light on your painting, after painting with daylight, you'll find your colours look all different. So you need to use a white light. So I'm just going to measure this. Now I've got a white chalk pencil here. And I'm just going to mark out where I need to put that horizon line. It's not going to draw for me. Okay, so that's not working. So I'm going to use a piece of chalk. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It depends on how dry the paint is, I find. Sometimes it's really hard with these little canvases to find the real edge of the canvas because there's quite a big turning there. Now, so I'm going to fix that horizon line up because you can't have a crooked horizon line. I'm just going to use some darker purple colour there. Now I've washed all the paint off my brush and I'm just going to dry it a little. And I just want to take out that harsh line. I've just dipped it back in the water and dried it with my paper towel again. It just makes that line a little less harsh because it can be a problem with doing a masking tape line. You get a really hard transition on your horizon and you want your horizon just a little hazy, but you also have to have it straight. So now that I've fixed my horizon line, my sun is too low in the sky. So I'm going to have to fix that now too. I'm going to dry this horizon line. I'll put it on the bottom, make sure I have it in the right place. And this will give me a chance to really lighten up the bottom of that sky, which still felt a bit dark to me. And I wanted to make that colour a bit brighter too, because that was looking a bit dull to me as well. I'm just rinsing off my brush, taking some of the water off and blending paint in. So now I'm coming in with even paler pink here. And highlighting a little bit more where the sun would be reflecting on that water. And a bit of the foam. I'm just going to wet my finger just a little bit. I'm just tapping it on there. I'm just smoothing some of the detail out in the distance there. You don't want lots of harsh lines when it's way in the back because you want the stronger lines in the front. I'm getting some of that really dark purple. And just running it under where some of those waves are going to be. And again, I'm just using my finger just to smooth that out a bit. Now because I've got a little bit of yellow in the sun here, I'm just going to put a tiny bit of that yellow just through the most lit part. A very tiny bit, because if so you need a very tiny bit of yellow in your white. And you don't want that mixing in with your purple too much because then it's just going to dull your purple instead of making a nice little accent. And I think what I also might do is just get some white and just do a little bit more accenting, but I will do it even smaller amount through there than the yellow was. I think I might switch to a smaller brush because doing it on an angle the way I am, it's been a bit tricky. So I'm going to try this number 1 here, if you can see that. I've just got a little bit of titanium white on its own. And I'm just dotting a really tiny bit on. even though this is a little tiny painting, it's still a good idea to stand back and have a look. Just to highlight the tops of those waves, because as we get away from the sun a bit, the colour will be different. So I'm reflecting what's up here down in the sea. And as you get further out, there's less detail and the lines are a lot smaller. And that's looking pretty good. I think that part of it is finished. The next thing we're going to do is the foreground and the tree, but I'm going to leave that. Okay, I'm back and it's the next day. It's actually the afternoon, not the morning, because I went to art group this morning and I painted this little one at art group. And I didn't have nearly so much trouble with this one because I had already worked out all the kinks in this one. So I made sure I made the background light enough in this one and made sure my horizon line was nice and straight. So now we'll finish off this one here. So I've put in a little chalk guideline. And now that my painting is nice and dry, my chalk pencil did work on here. And I'm just going to put in a little cabbage tree here, because in New Zealand we have a lot of cabbage trees around by the sea and the beach where the bush is. So I'm going to do cabbage trees for this one. And I'm going to use my really, really dark purple mixture for a start off. I'm using a number 3 round brush at the moment, but I'm actually going to now switch to a number 2 liner brush or rigger brush, because I want to get some of those lovely fine branches in, which is harder to do with a round brush. And I also want them to be more organically tree shaped, so sort of wriggly and not too uniform. And the cabbage trees have some bits that come down, and then the bits that are actively growing for the leaves come up, and that gives it its distinctive shape. You could also do a palm tree here, but I wanted to do something that was in keeping with where I live. So whatever trees grow around the beaches where you are, that's the kind of tree you can do. Just carrying on that tree around the corner. I'm going to add a little bit of highlight to this tree as well. So I've got a little bit of the pink on my brush. Now down here, I don't know if it's going to show up on camera. If I bring this a bit closer, you can see it's got a little bit of a bluey purple cast to it, but it's quite dark. So I'm actually going to add just a little bit of lighter colour around there, just to show that it's not all the same colour, that there's something happening down there. It's not just a straight dark colour. There's little bits of grass and things that are catching light and casting shadows. Just makes it a bit more interesting than looking at just a blank kind of dark purple shade. It's just makes it a bit more interesting there. Then I'm not going to go crazy with it. I'm just giving a suggestion of light, because I want your main focus to be obviously on this area here. And I think that's pretty well finished. You'll get my little tiny brush and write my name on it. Sign my painting. So I'm using a little tiny 00 to do my name. And I like to choose a colour that you can see but blends in with the painting when I do my signature. So because it's quite dark down here, I think I'll do my signature in a lighter shade. See if this colour will show up. It's not going to show up enough, so I think I'll do it in the pink lighter shade. So though you can see it, it blends in with the picture, so it's not an in-your-face kind of signature. I think it's important to sign your work on the front. And like with this one here, when I've signed it, I've done it in a darker purple, the same as these ones up here. So it blends in with the picture and it's subtle, but you can still read it. And we're finished.